Welcome to Intuitive Connections, where spirituality and psychology meet to help you be your best and brightest self. I'm your host, Victoria Shaw, and in each episode, I'll help you to awaken your own inner wisdom, step into your power, and live a more divinely inspired life. You're here to let your inner light shine. Are you ready? Let's do this. So hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. I'm your host, intuitive counselor and guide, Victoria Shaw. And today I'm excited because we have an intuitive reading. Our guest, Jen, is here with a question which she's going to share in 2 seconds that I think is going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and share this space with you today.
I'm excited too. All right. So Jen, share what you'd like guidance on today.
Definitely. I have always viewed myself as an introverted, people-pleasing person. And now in my adult years, this past year especially, I've been feeling this pull in my core to use my voice, to speak up, to help people, to have an opinion. Yet this strong part of me still wants to hide and keep quiet and not be seen, not ruffle any feathers. So I'm just trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be sitting in this space.
I love that question. And when I tuned into your energy before we hit record, just off the cuff, there is a lot of congested energy in your throat chakra, which kind of makes sense because when we go to express ourselves, that is usually the place, through which we express. And I want to tune in because your guides have some very specific information about this. What they're saying is that, throughout your life, you have brought your presence to the world in a variety of different ways. And that those ways should not be discounted, right? And that and this is the way that they say it, and it's not mere at all, but they're like, your mere presence, they say, has made a ginormous, that's my word, probably, impact on the world. And they want you to start from a place of knowing that, knowing all the subtle ways in which you have been helpful to others and have really made an impact and made a difference, apart from or above and beyond this other deep calling that you feel to express yourself more vocally, more verbally, more directly into the world. Does that make sense so far?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because they say when you can start to feel into, and this goes for, anything. So listeners, perk those ears up. When you can start to flow into how that which you want to create is already flowing and already happening, rather than focusing on where it's not, right? It tends to help release that energy more readily. So they really want you to know you've always been doing this. You've already been doing this your whole life. You are someone who has an impact on others without even trying. And your goal right now, if I'm reading it correctly, is sort of to release the fear around doing this more directly, more intentionally, and more importantly, I think up until now, your interactions with others have always put others first. And there's always been a sense in like, what do they want? What do they need? Like, what do they need to hear? And you're actually gifted in that respect. So you have a sixth sense about what people need from you. And, sometimes they're able to deliver that without compromise. And that's a beautiful thing. But when it becomes us editing ourselves because we are worried or afraid of how we will be received, that, my friend, is a very different experience and a very different story. And that for you is where the fear comes in.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So I want to recap because the guides want me to be more linear in this one so far than I usually am. So first we have this, you've always impacted other people. You've always been a gift to the world. And now you just want to do that more directly. And I think too, along these lines, you want to do it where I'm going to express all of me without reservation.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to worry what other people think, what they want, what they need. I'm going to trust more and more that that which I want to express is exactly the thing that the world needs and is ready to hear.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Beautifulness. Now, the guides are asking me, they're showing me like almost, I love your little office space there. And she has this little thing on her desk that y'all can't see, but I can, that says, yes, you can, which I feel is very much the energy you're wanting to imbibe now. And again, the guides say, you've always brought this out in other people. You help people tap into their yes, you can energy. It's kind of your thing. But now they're like, just put that thing in front of your space and use it for you, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been very easy for you to ignite that in others. but now you want to like light up your own spark, right? Your own flame and let yourself shine. And that's a very different thing, because I see, even as I say that, you start hiding behind things.
Exactly. My strong urge to hide and this pull to be seen is this ebb and flow.
Yep. Yeah, I see it. And they're showing me, the reason I talked about your background is they're almost like showing me tools in your toolbox. And they're like, she's over her lifetime accumulated a lot of tools. And so they're showing me almost like it looks exactly like the space behind you. So I'm wondering what's in all those pretty little drawers. But it's like you have all of this documentation, all of these things, all of these programs, all of this teaching, all of this learning. And you give it to people in dribs and drabs, but it's like you haven't authored the book yet or the manual. You haven't brought it all to the forefront. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. First of all, what they want to let you know, and I want to get this directly from them because it's not what I expected, is oh, it is what I expected. To a certain extent, the tools they say will speak for themselves. Okay. So sometimes we just have to let the tools speak for themselves, right? So when I do this podcast, right, a lot of times if I'm in my head and I'm like, I don't know if I'm good at this, I don't know if I can hear my guides, I don't know if people want to listen, it makes for a less smooth podcast, right? When I get out of the way and I'm like, all right, I'm co-creating this with the spirit guides. Like, this is what I was born to do. This is what I love to do. I'm going to just trust the process.
Mhm.
Things tend to flow. But what the guides are pointing out as I use this example is they say what really works for me is when I get Victoria Shaw out of the way to some extent and recognizing that I'm a tool or a vessel for this higher guidance that wants to come through. Because when I know I can cooperate with that, it kind of just takes the ego out of the way.
Mm.
And I'm prompted, or maybe I just want to tell a story, and I've told the story on the show before, but maybe some people haven't heard it. I know you haven't heard it, but years ago I was teaching this class and it was an advanced intuition development class that someone had asked me to teach. So they said I wanted an advanced class, and we found other people that wanted an advanced class, and I taught this class, and it was stirring up everybody's like egos of, am I advanced at this? And it rubbed off on me too. And so we took a little break and I was sitting upstairs doing my breaky thing. And all of a sudden, I'm going there. I'm like, who am I to teach an advanced class? Like, what was I thinking? Like, and my mind starts spinning. And because I was basically in the zone, because, I was halfway through the class and I'd been listening to the guides the whole time, they were very easy to reach me and say, Victoria, who do you think is teaching this class? Right? Who do you, like, they basically were like, they were messing with me, but they're like, are you questioning us? Are you saying that we are not able to teach this class? And it was such a moment of surrender for me to recognize, I'm cooperating with something higher than myself. The tools, the strategies, everything that I've created. Yes, of course, there's sometimes, and I hear you doing it right now. Am I good enough to cooperate with my higher self? Of course you are. How could you not be? You are the perfect vessel for that. And when you start to recognize that, I think a lot of the obstacles will just fall away because you'll remember what it is that you're doing, right? And Jen, you can't not be the perfect vessel for expressing everything that you came here to express here on earth. You can, it's impossible because that is exactly what this vessel was designed for.
Mm. Good to hear that.
So I want you to take a moment to take that in. It is
Mhm.
impossible for you not to be the perfect vessel to express what you're here to express because that's what you're made for. That's why you're here. And every moment and every experience that you have, even the ones that didn't feel so good, and we're going to get to those because you really want to. Even those moments, they're all perfect for bringing you to this moment now. And this moment now is the perfect moment for you to do exactly what you're here to do. And on top of that, though, I know you're going to express yourself and do great things because you already are doing great things, but I know that you want to do it more freely and funly, if that was a word. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because, your soul is doing the work and the gift just by being here. And the more we recognize that, the more we free ourselves up to just be here more deliciously and delightfully and intentionally and joyously. And that's when the party really gets started. Does that make sense?
Mhm. It does.
Okay. So I'm going to pause there for you and for everyone because I just want to let us all drink that in because it is true for everyone. I'm going to take that in too for me. All right. Before I move on, I'm going to pause and just see how this is landing for you and what's coming up for you now as we give you all that information.
You said the word in there, funly, and before you said that, I just keep hearing in my head, I keep playful. Like I need to view this as like a playground. Like, what do I have to lose by being myself? Play,
Yeah.
just play in this space.
I love that. And they say you have all of those tools. Sometimes you take those tools way too seriously,
Mm.
but you have them and start to play with them. And I love that. So I don't want to talk over you either. But they say, like, as you play more, you're going to use all the tools and toys more freely, and it's going to be really fun. But in those moments when you need a more human motivation to do things, it's also fine to say something to the effect of, I just got to get this stuff out there. It's not me, it's the stuff. It's magical. People need it. I'm going to get out of the way and like throw it out there. And they say that's okay too. So that can be your default as long as you don't believe it too hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Because my motto lately that I've been saying is like, I just need to take messy action. So that fits
Oh,
into that pull.
I love it. I love it. I just need to take messy action.
Mhm.
And, another way of saying that, which you already said, is playful action.
Mhm.
Because when we play, we just do it for the sake of doing it.
Mhm.
We just do it for the joy of doing it and the obligation and responsibility and the fun little mind game of you don't fail play, right?
Yeah.
You don't get play wrong. And when your soul is here having this human experience, what is it doing? It's playing. It's playing. You may not be feeling it that way, but that is how your soul experiences it for sure. It doesn't feel like hardship.
Nice.
So I love that. All right. They're guiding me now towards specifics. I feel that you know all of the things that have set up the fears that you have around self expression. So I don't feel that we need to go into that because I feel like you have that information. You understand some of the childhood conditioning. You even understand probably in other bodies this came up for you. You understand, I'm giving you a brief summary, you understand too some aspects of your personality as it stands now that you tend to be a tad bit perfectionistic. And sometimes when that little story gets triggered, you don't want to do anything unless it's just perfect. I have this image of you holding like a very sharp pencil and just like one little mark at a time, afraid that like if I don't do it exactly right, I'm going to have to erase the whole thing and start again. And then you never get anything done. So I feel that you know all of this. They say the solution to the last conundrum is start finger painting, right? Because when you finger paint, you know it's going to be a mess. And your precision's not bad, they say. There's good things about being a precise person as long as you don't get lost in it, right? They're giving me the image of like watercolor or finger paints and you play and you do all the stuff and then you come back with that pencil and you're like, "Ooh, I want to like highlight this. Ooh, I want to write something there. Ooh, I want to bring this out." That's what the pencil's for. But if you start with that pencil, then you kind of end with it without getting into the juice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you might even want to play with doing some artistic creations along those lines because sometimes that frees up our energy so beautifully.
Yeah. Okay.
But the guides are saying, like I said before, you know the landscape of the unwanted, meaning you know where these patterns were formed. You know how they come to you. And so there are times when you look in that direction and it's just a piece of paper. They're giving me the image. You're very visual because they give me all these visual images. It's a piece of paper and you're trying to break through the piece of paper and you can't. It's like a piece of paper, but then as soon as you punch into it or stab into it, it becomes like rubber and nothing goes through. Does that resonate, that image?
Interesting. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Right? And it's just a piece of paper. So most of us know if you actually held up a piece of paper and you held it taut and you tried to break through it with, a pencil, it would go right through because paper is not strong, or you could rip it or you could burn it. But for you, when you focus on it, it gets thicker, stronger, not weaker. And so what they want you to do instead, and I want to get this right from them, is imagine that piece of paper rather than an obstacle is just a blank slate. And when those things come up, color on it, play with it. Don't try to break it or change it or rip it, or just understand that our conditioning, that all of the things that, we have brought into this life, the good, the bad, the ugly, is all part and parcel of the tools that we're using to create.
Mm.
Okay. So rather than thinking of them as limitations, think about them as part of the fabric that makes you who you are and uniquely poised for, the next steps in your mission, purpose, or even just what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's you saying that and using the piece of paper like to decorate. My daughter, who's not allowed to draw on anything, literally drew all over the wall the other day. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, don't look, Mom. This is a surprise. It's for you. So I feel like you just articulated what she was trying to show me. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, and that's adorable. And I hope you handled that nicely. And I hope it wasn't indelible. Oh, that's so sweet. That's exactly what she was trying to deliver to you.
Yeah.
Because she's very young, no?
Yeah, she's just about 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she still has that playful element intact. And sometimes she looks at you and she does not understand your seriousness. And she's wondering too if she has to follow suit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she's an intense one. We could have a whole conversation about her. She's got some intensity, but she doesn't want to give that up. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like she looks at you and she's like, I don't want to give that up,
Yeah.
because she's someone who always wants to boldly color on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably will do that her whole life.
Yeah.
Maybe even literally. She could be a mural painter.
I think so. Yeah.
She's got that energy. Like I can see it. And again, those people need different things. Like walls are not for drawing right now. Or, in my case as a child, there were actually walls I was allowed to mural on, and that was really cool. I had a whole room that I drew all over, and it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was older. But anyway, so yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. And so I want to tune back in and tell me if anything else is coming through because I don't want to talk over you either. And you have your own little, not little, but you have a beautiful intuitive channel of your own that is activated right now. So I don't want to step on that.
Yeah, no, I feel this playful pull now. And you switching the verbiage from messy action into like playful action. I really like that. That really
Yeah.
resonates with me.
Yeah. And I think it's going to change the way the tools and everything that you do work out because I think that there's a gripping onto the things that you quote unquote know how to do
Mm-hmm.
and a feeling like you have to present them in a certain way and do it in a certain way. And there's a rigidity there that just makes you contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little girl in school where the teacher says you must draw an A this way. And if you don't draw the A this way, you know what I mean? And there's no erasing. The teachers that say that, just do it, but there's no erasing, but you got it wrong. It's like, I don't know who that teacher was, but that was not helpful. So let's both take a breath and let her go. So you really want to be able to play more, bring things out more, let other people draw, like your daughter, like let other people draw on the paper their very own way, just as I modeled for you, right? Like we want to, when we give tools to other people or guidance to other people or books to other people or artwork to other people, we always have to freely offer it to them to make it their own. I mean, how often do people create a song, right? And they may have a specific meaning of that song. I can think about this a million times. And then you listen to that song and it means something totally different to you, right? You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how it's supposed to be, right? Like when we give that creative gift freely to someone else, right? Then it's theirs to do what they want with. And oftentimes in the most beautiful way. And so that's, I think, something else that will really help you to understand. And it'll also help you release any fear around being misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big one for me, right? Because I have done readings now for well over a decade. And every once in a while, someone come into my office and tell me something I said. And I'm like, there's no way I said that. Either I don't remember I said it, or sometimes I'm like, I wouldn't have said that. Sometimes to the extent of like, oh man, I'm really sorry, but I never would have said that. And then sometimes like, wow, I definitely didn't say that, but look where you went with what I said, right? Because sometimes what I think I said isn't what I said at all. And so one of the things that I've learned is however what I say lands, it's not about me anymore. I align, I open my lips, I let the guidance come through, and sometimes it gets mixed with some other stuff too, and then I let it go. And I think when you can recognize, because you're hanging on to your creations and the things that you want to put out, they're so afraid that you're going to put them out and someone is going to come in with their red marker and mush it all up and say, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And that just means it's not for them.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that what you put out there is wrong. And I think that's the biggest holdup for you. And that one's in your solar plexus.
Mhm.
Does that resonate?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Okay. And on a small note, what they say is practice. Practice preaching to the choir. You already do this, but just do it a little bit more intentionally. Practice sharing with people that you know. If you share with them, they're going to be really excited about it. Practice by preaching to the choir because it's going to get you comfortable knowing that what I put out there is well received.
Mhm.
And then take a moment when you are preaching to the choir and take in that good feeling of being loved and honored and useful and helpful and appreciated, because these are all things that you love. I don't think you have to let go of any of them. You just have to allow that. If someone doesn't feel that way, it's not on you.
Mhm.
Okay. And I feel that as you allow yourself to start expressing yourself more and more, your sphere of influence will grow because you won't be afraid of the bigger audience because you'll be expanding based on a mostly positive, reaffirming platform. You know what I mean? Where you're just going to grow naturally because you're going to build your own self confidence and your own comfort level so that the periphery where you're not sure won't be as important.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So they're almost giving me an image that when you have the solid base and you've built that by preaching to the choir and interacting with people that you know get your stuff and are excited about it and are excited about you. I mean, nothing's 100%, but like, you have that, then you'll just gradually expand into new areas and you won't worry so much because you'll have a solid base to begin with.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to fold that page over too. I like that image. That's a
Mhm.
really good one. Okay. And I think that that will really, really help you. Now, they want to know, and I think they want to know, and maybe the listeners just want to know a little more specifically, if you don't mind sharing now about what you do and what you want to do, if you are okay sharing that, because that is somewhat biographical information.
Yeah. Well, essentially, I retired at the age of 34, and now I'm at home growing this young family. So I want to help others do the same. So people have always been inspired by me and want to do what I've been doing. And I feel like it's been a fairly simple journey, but I've always been quiet about it. But now all of a sudden I feel called to help other people be able to do the same thing, which therefore is where my voice comes in and I actually have to share everything that I've done.
Yes. Okay. So there's a couple things as we wrap up that come through on that. Number one, you provide a blueprint, but you also provide an example.
Mhm.
So, as they were saying before, what works for you won't work for everyone. But by showing what's worked for you, you're giving other people hope, you're giving people ideas, you're giving people an inspiration, right? So, I teach intuition development, have been doing that also for well over a decade. And I teach what works for me. And, I have the intuition too, and you're highly intuitive as well. But I have that skill very well developed. So I can also sometimes tune in and receive specifically for my clients, for my students, like what's going to work for them.
Mhm.
Right. And it's not always the same thing. Oftentimes people are drawn to you because you have some gift to share that resonates with them. Right. So some clients are going to be naturally drawn to do intuition development with me, and others are going to be naturally drawn to do it with other people. And, part of that's just the law of attraction at work. We attract in what we need, what we desire. And, if we don't try too hard, it happens beautifully and naturally. So you're going to have those people. But I also think too that part of your program is going to be where people can fill in the blanks and make it their own.
Mhm.
And I feel that when you know that, it relaxes you a little bit.
Mhm.
Because if you hold yourself up as the paragon, then you're constantly going, am I up to this? Did I do this right? Am I really as great as I think I am? Do I really have everyone else's answers? And the short answer to that question is you do not. You actually don't have anyone's answers.
Mhm.
I talk like this for a living and I don't have your answers, right? I have a bunch of words that come through my lips from your higher self and your guides that help you discover your answers and find your answers, but they do not reside with me. And other people's answers don't reside with you. So I think when you can recognize that, your whole energy just went, "Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay."
Yeah,
You have your own answers, and you may have wisdom that can help other people find theirs. And that's all you need to do.
I definitely feel more relaxed suddenly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have to hold yourself up as a paragon or a perfect person. In fact, I personally feel that those people that lead that way, although sometimes we get a lot of it tension when we're like, I have manifested a $7 billion business. And like those people that aren't necessarily going to be able to teach you what they did anyway. And of course, we want people telling us like to do something that they actually know how to do. Sometimes I tell people stuff that I don't know anything about comes out of my lips. And I'm like, I don't know anything about business, but here's what your guide said, right? So that's a story for another day. But what's really important is it's not you being perfect that's getting the job done. It's your being curious. It's your sharing what you've learned from your journey. It's your being an example of what's possible,
Mhm.
right? But your perfection and your need to be perfect is actually a limiting factor. It's a limiting factor for you, but it's also a limiting factor for everyone else because they're going to be jiving with that. I got to be perfect too. And is that that's not the vibe you want to put out,
Mm.
right? Alternatively, you want to put out that vibe, and this is true of you, that there's an inner perfection there all the time within each of us. But that inner perfection has nothing to do with how we show up in the world. It has nothing to do with the right or wrong and all the judgments of our sweet, cute, adorable, socially conditioned human minds. It's our own inner divinity, which is always perfect in the now, in this moment. Wherever you are is just where you're supposed to be. You're lovable, you're beautiful, you're enough, you're inspiring, you're all those beautiful things. And you do have this inner perfection, but the outer part ain't ever going to be perfect. It's not supposed to be. And no one is looking for that.
Mm.
And anyone who is looking for that is just confused and let them go. Does that help?
That really helps.
Yay. As we start to wind down, is there anything else that you would like guidance on this topic that, any lingering questions that we haven't hit on yet or any final impressions?
Not really. I just truly feel a sense of calm right now, which is really nice.
Yay. The guides say you know exactly what you need to do.
Mhm.
They say again, just to summarize, preaching to the choir is a great place to start. Play, 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 play. And take some time if it doesn't feel too threatening to you. And this might be a conversation for another day, but not today. To just, celebrate your wins and successes.
Mm.
And I don't mean you have to share them yet with other people, though eventually you will, and not from a place of ego, but just of a place of excitement. But for now, just enjoy them yourself. Take some time every day to think about all the things that you have accomplished and that you are accomplishing. There's a voice in your head, conditioned voice coming from your childhood that is always like criticizes you when you feel good about yourself.
Mhm.
Okay. Or tells you, like, you're not allowed to go there. Or don't let your head get too big or any of this stuff. I invite you to let that go. Okay. It's not bragging to reflect on the things about yourself that make you feel good about yourself that you're proud of. And you have a lot to be proud of. So make sure you take some time with that because you are a very, what's the word, conscientious person, caring person, thoughtful person. Like, you care deeply about yourself in the world. And sometimes think that caring's a little heavy. So I invite you to lighten the load. But there's a beauty to the way that you create things and the way that you've constructed your life. And I just hope that you can take a little bit of time every day to congratulate yourself and to honor yourself and to give yourself a big old hug of all the beautiful things that you have created for yourself. And know too that anything that you've attracted into your space, whether you've done it from hard work or not, play is a way more fun way to create. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve everything that your heart desires and then some. And it's from that energy that you'll invite others to recognize that that is true for them too.
Hmm. Well said. I feel all warm and fuzzy now.
I love it. All right. Well, this has been really fun. And I know that a lot of people feel that call and they feel that I want to put myself out there. But, a lot of our social conditioning says, like, you got to edit your voice, you got to quiet your voice, you don't want to be too self-congratulatory. What do you have to offer? So I hope that now, now that we stirred that energy up by talking about it, I hope that now you can recognize that when you tune into yourself, when you tune into all the beautifulness that is you, your gifts, your soul, and the human realization of all that wonderfulness. And you recognize that you are exactly as you're supposed to be. And this is the exact right space and the exact right time for sharing your gifts. When you can feel that and connect with that, anything and everything is possible.
Right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, because you know that this is what I love to do. And it is really fun to do it with you all listening. And if this process intrigues you and you too would like to get an intuitive reading, probably not on the show, but I do offer one-to-one sessions at various price points for folks via Zoom all over the planet and in person in my office in San Diego, California. So you can find out information about how to do that with me on my website, victoriashawintuitive.com, and or you can keep tuning in to this podcast, because I also know that when we do these readings, right, that oftentimes you will get nuggets of wisdom from the guests that we have and their readings, because we all learn so much from each other's stories. So thank you, Jen, for lending your story for everyone today. Thank you all listeners for tuning in, and namaste. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you found joy, strength, inspiration, and clarity from today's episode. If you'd like to learn more and connect with an amazing group of like-minded souls, please join us over on Facebook in the Intuitive Connection Community Facebook group, where we explore these topics in deeper detail, have additional live teachings, and host Facebook Lives with our amazing guests. I hope to see you there. And of course, if you want to learn more about me or the work that I do, please check out my webpage, victoriashawintuitive.com. Thank you so much again, and namaste.